service, and that wraps that one up.
That's easy. Feasibility studies, you'll see it's now we're looking at a little bit, the increase, obviously, you look at the requisition here. It goes from 0 to 874, 250, whatever, to 15,000. So that's obviously looking at feasibility studies for I believe fire, Race Point Road, the fire service. So that's why that's so significant in there.
Right, I understand that. Duncan Bay. Now, I suppose if Duncan Bay does go ahead, that cost would be put on that service?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so what are we looking for at an increase there for cash?
So it looks like, we've typically had a negligible requisition, $250. We've got about $5,000 in a surplus, so looking to requisition 15,000 to build that fund to 20. And that would be projecting, again, these are high-level numbers, about $9.50 a home more next year. Now, of course, you're right. When and if these services happen, that those services pay back that money. But yeah, you got to upfront it from the requisition to start with.
I understand. Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
We'll leave that in the way you've got it.
Okay. Fire protection. So I'll just
yeah.
What's that?
I was going to say that's the only one where I have a little bit of discussion on.
Yeah, let's us give you, or me give you, the background too on it. So I prefaced the group when they gave us the budget, said, hey, look, we know we're looking at let's just call it a consolidation of the service moving forward. So we don't want any big capital purchases, like that's not gonna fly. So what they gave us a budget with, and the fire chief was here, the significant increases that you've seen in there, from our perspective, look like training and, mandatory equipment that they need, and anything related to health and safety, no capital items in there, no transfers to reserve. Having said that, it's a bit of an increase, and so, when you saw the budget, what's your thoughts on it?
Well, first of all, I have some concerns from the budget that the village gives me. If you remember, in 2021, they tried to scam us out of 12,000, saying that they had to repair the fire engine and they needed additional funds for the assistant chief. And when I checked into it, I found out that the engine had already been repaired. There was no cost there whatsoever.
Right.
And the chief didn't want the money. So the other thing that bothers me a little bit about it, they use very round numbers there. And they never give us, as far as I understand, their financial report that's supposed to be given quarterly, according to the contract. I wonder if we should ask it. They won't have year end maybe done yet, but for their third quarter financial report on what they've actually spent and where we stand, so we can have a little idea of the validity of what they're asking for here. And then, in addition to that, they're asking for, minor amounts, but for that Rescue 33, we don't pay any capital on that. And for all the rescue that they do on the highway, I understand the province reimburses them for that. So I'm not sure why they would be asking for money for that when it's a provincial cost.
So, a couple things we can do. So, we can go back to them and say to them there's significant increases. Like, the chief was here and he seemed to be supporting it, and
right. I don't know if he knows their financial status, though. He's probably just looking at it from the perspective of what he would like for equipment. Now, they've got 22,000 in there for firefighter supplies. It would be nice to know what those supplies are. If they're equipment like boots and coats and so on, until the regional district takes over that service, there's probably not an immediate need for it.
Mm-hmm.
If we took over that service within, say, 3 months, then we're only going to owe them less than a quarter of their budget. And then I guess we'd have our own budget.
right?
22,000 for that, 21,000 for equipment, without any explanation of what they're actually buying and who's going to own it.
Yeah.
I would perhaps prefer to buy it ourselves and cut them out, and we'd own it 100%. And then later on, if they join our service, we could build them for their share of it.
Can do, yeah.
But then on the other hand, in the contract, we don't have to send them anything until August the 1st. So basically, these are just numbers.
Is that date, August 1st?
I'm not sure when we send it, I believe it's sometime around there.
Okay, so there's another philosophy out here too. So you can see, again, these are just high-level projections that, based on that budget we give, but it looks like about a $61 a home increase on the budget they've given us. So I was thinking, and it's just, you know, to toss around your thoughts. If that increase comes in, and when we start a new service, maybe that increase is already built in, so that whatever we look at for our own service, the kind of the number has been pushed higher for us, if you will. So let's say whatever it comes out of requisition here, look at $340 a home, plus or minus it's looking at. So let's say we take, and this is just one philosophy, we take a look at the service and it comes back and it's, I'm just gonna make this up, $360 a home. Well, that's just a $10 a home increase in this combined service. So maybe we can use this as a way to help get that number up, so that when we look at the cost, our costs are not as high as it may seem.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I have no problem with that, and I have no complaint about the money. It's just giving it to the village.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you. Yeah.
Now, the other thing is, in the contract, it talks about cost shares, 60-40% of the approved budget. Who approves the budget? Is that a village-approved budget or a jointly approved budget?
Well, I guess as soon as, let's say, we adopted our budget that they've given us, I think that's approving the budget, if you will.
And if we don't approve it, what's the next step?
I guess we gotta come up with something that we approve. So let's say you saw this and said, okay, this is way too high. We would go back and said, like, look, we're just not going to pay this. We need it being reduced. And I think we would come up with a number at some point that we both supported.
Yeah, no, I'm not arguing about the cost increase. That may be legitimate, and maybe the regional district will have similar costs when we take over. I'm just concerned about their accounting, that's all.
Yeah.
And what's the chance of us getting a third quarter report from what they've actually spent in 2022, and what perhaps we can see what the projection would honestly be? Like, it's that 43,500 between firefighter supplies and equipment that I would just like to know what that is. For example, in our fire hall, I want to have the regional district purchase a compressor so that we can put our own fire engine in our own hall. We had the fire chief put it in there a couple of weeks ago. It fits just fine, despite all of the rumors that it couldn't possibly go in there. But we need a compressor to keep it there. And because it's a central location for both the village and the valley, it would make sense to have the best engine there. And I think that's what we're on line to do. But I don't know exactly what they're buying here. And like I say, who's going to own the equipment when they purchase that, if they don't in the future join the service?
As far as the reporting, we've never had third quarter reports in the past. Typically, we get a report sometime in late February, early March for the year, but we could always ask them for interim reporting.
Well, the reason I say that is because the contract clearly says that each quarter they'll provide us with a report. If you read that contract.
Yeah, no, we can pursue that. I don't think it's terribly unreasonable then to say, we can go back to them and say, hey, look, the supplies and equipment, we're concerned about the ownership issue of this. We want those things deferred to the new service, whatever it be, because there's only two options. It's gonna be a joint service, or it's gonna be the village service and valley service.
That's right. So
So-
let's defer it then. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I don't have an issue saying to him, you're fine with the budget. This gonna muddy the waters with ownership, and Gerald wants to make sure that this new service is gonna own this. So how about we defer those supplies and equipment?
Yeah, tell them otherwise, I'll just buy it myself.
Right, okay. No, that's
Okay.
fine.
And you could quote the contract to them. I mean, after 15 years, they should at least make some effort to fulfill their terms of the contract.
Yeah, no problem. No, that's reasonable. I don't think there's any problem. And like you say, there can't be that much urgency for it. Like, I mean,
No.
so nothing that 3 or 6 months couldn't buy some time. And again, if it is that urgent, you know, here's what we could do. What's your thoughts on this? Maybe we could put some additional money in our budget that we're not
Right.
going to give to them. So let's say, I don't know what the number is, but let's say they were asking for 250 grand. Well, let's give them 200, but put 50 grand in our budget in case the fire chief came back and said, this stuff needs to be bought. And we'll go, okay, fine, we'll buy it, but we're gonna own it.
Right. Okay, I have one other question for you on this fire service. In the contract, they have the option of having reserves, and I suppose every service reasonably would have reserves. Do we know if the village has any reserves? If they do, how much have they got? And do we own 60% of those reserves?
So I'll let Mike answer the second part. But the first one is, I told them to take out reserve contributions in this budget. That would make no sense to me. But historically, I think we've been putting money into our own reserve, and they've been putting money into their reserve.
Okay,
Yeah, that's correct, and we have no claim on any of their reserves on their books.
alrighty, good. And then any surplus from last year would just roll over into this year. Was that included in their budget? Any rollover from what they didn't spend last year?
We won't know that till February or March when we get the reporting, but typically they've spent under. So we'll expect something, but we don't have any idea what their 2022 spend looks like to date.
Okay, so if you guys are good on that one, I'm good on.
Thank you.
Okay, we can go on to the next one. Then I'll just turn my phone off here.
Sure.
Okay. So,
I don't see in the Cayucit emergency, I don't see any change from previous year.
okay, let me just answer this and tell them I'm busy for a second. Hello? Yeah, I'm busy for a second. I'm in a meeting. You can call me back in maybe an hour. No, she's in town. Bye. Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay.
All right. Cayuga Nuka Emergency Program 271.
We don't have anything kind of new or different or anything to change there unless you do.
No,
Okay.
that one 364. Cayuga Nuka Solid Waste Disposal. That one's out of our hands anyway.
Yeah, or always keep working on trying to figure out something that's more efficient with the First Nation. Hopefully, we can do something there this year.
Hopefully, good.
Sayward, Area A refusal.
Yeah, that's our weekend cleanups.
Yeah, don't have
As
much.
long as Comox Valley keeps giving us our what little subsidies there to support the cost of that, we're in business.
Is that $6 grand?
Yeah, we
Okay.
do have that for this year.
Okay, good. Garbage collections, the next one 370. I think tipping fees are going up, but that one just is what it is.
Yeah, for that one, we needed looks like a bit of an increase there. So we have a $27 increase to the disposal side.
Yeah. Okay, nothing we can do with that. House numbering 534, that's a non-event. Anything there?
Yeah, no, nothing there. Economic
Okay.
development, nothing really there.
No, that's just the hang on till we finally get rid of it.
Yeah.
Now, Cayuga Community Hall, I wonder if you can give me maybe an estimate of what we might expect to accomplish in 2023 on that one.
Thank you, Director Wally. So in the summer of 2022, we've completed additional engineering assessments on the structure as well as geotechnical. Those assessments have been completed and identified further geotechnical assessments over the lands before we determine whether or not it's appropriate to rebuild the structure or tear down upon the direction of the director, of course. So the remaining budget that we have in the capital budget will be used to have further geotechnical assessments done on the site, and we will then be able to provide you with some options moving forward.
Alrighty, so we wouldn't be doing any construction in 23, is that what you're saying?
Likely not. If we did contemplate that, something would come forward to you to be discussed at the table with a proposed budget amendment if required.
Okay, and we have kind of appropriated the gas tax funds for this sometime in the future?
We have some gas tax funds allocated to date, not enough to rebuild. And we also have some grant opportunities that would potentially assist us with a rebuild as well.
Yeah, I think
Okay, so
we're thinking about a few things. One, could our gas tax, two, grant opportunities, and three, some kind of partnership with the First Nation. There's always speak of them, their need for some kind of community recreation hall, so we're not certain which one of those three. You've obviously got lots of gas tax to allocate, but we'd like to pursue other things and use that as a last resort.
okay, I'm not so sure how cooperation with First Nations in this one would work, because in the past, they're the ones that are responsible for the damage in there. But anyway, beyond the gas tax and the grant, what do you think the outstanding amount of money might be that we need to raise?
For a community hall, like the build?
Yeah, to have the rebuild. Like how much
Well,
would be short?
you know, I would think it would be in the hundreds of thousands for sure. I don't know if we have an estimate on that, but so there's a few things, right? There would be some provincial grants possibly that come up that we would pursue, but and then if we can get, you know, hopefully a partnership or contribution from First Nation and then have gas tax, but I don't think we have line of sight exactly on what those costs would be, but they'd be significant.
All right. Anyway, that's not for 23, so it doesn't really
Yeah.
matter for this budget. All right, moving right along. The Sayre Heritage Hall. So anyway, for just that community hall, Cayuga, I guess we just leave the budget the way it is.
Okay.
Okay, for the Sayre Community Hall, have we got a request from them yet?
No, we've yet to receive the 2023 budget for the Sayward Hall.
Okay, so I guess we just leave it the way it was.
Yeah, this is kind of a status quo, so
Yeah.
not having heard anything from them, so, you know, I think this is probably a couple percent increase, if you will, for cost of living. If we receive anything, you know, from now to when we publish, we'll definitely give you that. You know, I don't know what they requested, if they have significant requests. Have you been talking to them? Have they been asking for stuff, or what do you know?
Well, no, quite a few months ago, they had been anxious about a auxiliary electrical plant, but I haven't heard a word about it since. I don't know if they've dropped it or what's happened to that. In the last year's budget binder, there was the Heritage Hall heating system for 40,000. What was that going to be? Replacement of current heating system and a generator with more efficient and effective unit. Where's that? Is that just a pie in the sky thing, or is that reality?
That was a request from the hall themselves, and we've yet to hear that they've proceeded with that. So the budget is still there and will be carried forward to 2023.
So we have gas tax allocated to that, just, I'm not sure what they're doing with it.
Okay, now, how do our reserves look in this service? Capital reserves for roofs and things.
We don't have any capital reserves for this one.
Should we have? Or did we have in the past?
I think we do have, according to this, 19,000.
Sorry, yes, we do.
19,571 in capital reserves right now. And we also have an operating reserve.
Yeah, sorry, we have
Yeah.
104,000 in the operating reserve and 20,000 in the capital.
Okay, that should be adequate.
Yeah, that's pretty significant. So because we have a decent amount in the operating reserve too, we haven't heard anything from them, but, you know, I don't know what kind of the long-term needs they have there, but through a combination of gas tax operating reserve, I think we're in pretty good shape there.
Okay, we're good on that one. That's the last one as far as I know.
So EA admin, so we're just, because again, we have some newbies here, you obviously have history on that, so we're just kind of sharing with them, kind of identifying what these services do and what they fund and pay for and all that. Just to give you some kind of line of sight here, you know the history, I'm assuming some of them will ask, maybe you can, you know, provide a history lesson to some of them. EA admin, though, as you know, pays for directors' salaries, conferences, and all that jazz as it relates to EA services. We had the big jump when we did the remuneration change in 2019, 2020, and you know, the increase is just due to the CPI and adjustments to director salary moving forward. So.
Yeah. Good.
So, yeah.
And you were gonna throw a little in there for public hearing stuff and.
Yeah, so we can do that, and hopefully when it comes to the EA, you can kind of support that. I don't know,
You bet.
again, how much discussion we want to have about that, but I'll do
Not
that.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. Well, what's the figure, just roughly out for curiosity?
Well, oh, for public hearing?
Yeah.
I don't know, you tell me. We'll talk offline.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
All
what,
right, we're good.
what you're seeing here, just anticipated for EA admin in Electoral is $5 a home.
Fine. That's just fine.
Gas tax there, Mike, you can probably fill Gerald in on some gas tax reserves for him.
Thank you.
Yeah, we do have new census information, so I believe yours went up a little bit, relatively speaking, to 12.4%. And we have a schedule of all the committed funds, but again, we'll probably be looking at more for the one haul there, should it go ahead. And then your current uncommitted balance is about 760 or 736 there.
736,000. And how much of that have we already kind of committed?
You have 387,000 committed, but we'll have a year-end report for you, but you're gonna make 62 every year.
Yeah. All right. That sounds good.
Then the last one is 500 planning. Now, you know some of the history on that, but if you look at the budget, what, you know, we've had here, we've got new directors that want OCP zoning bylaw. I know it doesn't relate to you, but want work done in their election. They campaigned on that stuff. We have in that service, as you can see, the requisition, we've been using surplus, draining surplus, which is never a good idea to fund this service, and now we need to fill positions, and sooner or later the chicken's got to come home to roost. So you can see, you know, the requisition's been going down and being artificially supported by surplus. Those surpluses have gone down considerably, and we just have no choice at some point in time. There's a rec increase to get us back to level water. We can't live off the surplus. So 500 planning is going to be, again, it's something that there's going to be a reasonable increase this year.
Yeah. When you have the opportunity, perhaps you can impress on them the cost of their community plan, whatever they do with them.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it seems, you know, they want these things. I mean, look at Area D, you know, gosh, that OCP is decades old, and
Yeah.
areas B, their zoning bylaws, and I mean, you know the history with all the other, the folks that we had here. But then
Yeah.
the philosophy of you using surplus to, push the requisition
Yeah.
down, sooner or later,
Yeah,
you
I
run
understand.
out of surplus there, so hopefully get
Right.
your support with the other three on there, but
Yeah.
that's really all there is.
Yeah, not a problem. I just, one more question on that. I wonder how realistic it is in 2023. How much of this are we going to get accomplished considering the amount of staff we have?
Well, part of it is to populate the staffing positions, and that's coming around, so, we can't do anything without the staff there, and as you know, we had, a bit of a split last year and weren't be able to populate the positions.
Right.
So giving this, we can do the work, but it gives us the ability to populate the positions.
Right, I understand. Okay, yep, I support that. Sounds good.
And Vancouver Island Library, well, that one's totally out of our hands. They send us a bill, and I think the memo this year was 8.1%, and
Yeah. Out of our control, out of hand.
yeah, that one's just a pass along. So, who got appointed to library yesterday?
Was it Mark?
Mark. So there you go. You can lean on him on his
Yeah.
pursuits of the library there. So yeah, I think they were 8.1 or 8.2%.
I think it was John Rice.
John, right?
Oh, was it John?
Gerald Wally was the alternate, wasn't he?
Well, maybe you can get yourself as in there as the alternate once or twice here, so you can speak up.
Well, Ron Kerr is on the library board, and
Right.
him and I were talking about it. So I think I got my base covered there.
Yeah, well, as you know, with Brenda there, it was a beloved service to her, and I mean,
Yeah.
I think if the increases were 22%, she was okay with them, right? So
Yeah.
maybe
I
things will
understand
change. Yeah. So that's all we got, unless you got anything else for us?
No, that's it. Thank you very much.
All right. Oh, sorry, Wolf's got something, Sheena.
Hi, Director Wally. You guys went so fast at the beginning, we didn't catch this, but I do just want to jump back to the 151 feasibility studies. There's
Yeah.
a line in there that we put in under the budgetary comment goals. We will be bringing a staff report forward in the new year for you guys to take a look at, but I wanted to give you some information about it ahead of time. We were approached by the province and the Cayuquet-Checklisset First Nations early last year about the status of the water service to Walters Island, the Cayuquet School residents, and Okeme Health Center.
Yeah.
Because of changes to the Water Act, the KCFN had to apply for groundwater licenses for their wells. They currently distribute water to those areas, both on their treaty lands and Walters Island, Cayuquet School, etc. But they are not permitted to be water suppliers under the regulations unless they get a certificate of public convenience and necessity, which they are not interested in doing. It's a pretty onerous and expensive process. So the province has requested that the SRD take over the water service to the areas off treaty lands and purchase bulk water from the KCFN. I don't know if you've been out there, but the water service infrastructure does not meet industry standards, and there are additionally not licenses for the pipe that goes, under the ocean between the KCFN lands and Walters Island. So, KCFN has to do some upgrades to their water treatment system that are gonna take 2 to 3 years. So that's sort of the time range that the folks on Walters Island have to sort out an alternate water supply. But if the SRD is gonna take that over, there will likely be significant cost to both upgrade the system and initial cost to assess it and figure out what we need. There's likely grants in place for that. But we will, like I said, we'll be putting forward a staff report to get some direction on if we should proceed with that or how we're going to fund that, so.
Yeah, this whole topic is a disaster in the making. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I'm sure there's no water available on Walters Island.
Yeah.
I wonder if, and there's nothing on Walters Island that would meet any provincial health standard.
No. What I think we'll pursue is, obviously, we do a study that identifies the costs, and we would lobby the MLA heavy and say, we're gonna need significant capital contribution from the province, as we've got, what do we got, 28 homes over on
That's
Walters Cove? All right, if this kind of change in legislation and the KCFN, you know, quite appropriately not wanting to be a purveyor of water, you know, then puts it back on our lap to provide a water system to those existing folks on Walters Cove. Then I think one of the things that we needed to lean on Michelle Babchuck heavy is that you're gonna need to get us a ton of money, like, and it's gonna have to be basically 100% funded, because let's just say, you know, a new water system there, all, you know, bells and whistles on it was $5 million, and they said, we're gonna give you, you know, 75%. Well, big deal. We can't
Yeah, I
come up with 29 people can't come up with $1 million, right? So,
No, and half of them are broke. That are
yeah,
regular.
so we're gonna have
Right.
to lobby the province heavy on,
Right. Now, what about, I wonder if First Nations would be agreeable if we put our own pipe in their reservoir and had nothing to do with their delivery system and ran our own pipe over to Walters Dam? That would be
maybe, I
cheap.
mean, we could have a chat with them about, you know, what, you mean us being the purveyor to them?
Well, no, I believe all their water comes from a big reservoir, kind of small lake they have up above there.
They have,
And,
sorry, Director Wally, they
gra-
have wells. They have groundwater licenses for 2 wells on Crown land.
Okay, but don't they have a lake up top there that they used to draw from?
I can't speak to that, but their current supply comes from groundwater wells on Crown land. And then the distribution pipes have to pass through treaty land, so we could look into that. But we would need a treatment plant in addition to the distribution infrastructure, so that would only increase the requirements of the
Right.
service.
Does First Nations have a treatment plant for their own water?
They do, and that is some of the upgrades that they need to make that give us sort of that 2-year window to sort this out.
I see. Now, did you say their wells are on Crown land or is it on treaty land?
The wells are on Crown land. The distribution center from the wells to the treatment center are on treaty land. And we would need to cross treaty lands if we had the same setup.
Right. Okay, because if the wells are on Crown land, maybe we could put our own well in.
Yeah, whatever the solution is, it's big money, and, you know, we don't have the density of people
No.
to pay for it, and we're gonna
No, I
need,
understand that.
yeah.
But that would
Yeah.
be the feasibility study, if there was to be one, would look
Yeah.
at all of those issues, correct? And identify the
Yeah.
options?
Yeah, yeah.
Right. Now, the feasibility study would be paid by all of Electoral aid, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can
Well,
look also at maybe we'd be able to get a planning study grant too. I know they hand those out, so
Yeah.
maybe.
The province
Well, we
did
should
provide a link
try.
to grant opportunities for the feasibility study as well as the design. So I think they were optimistic that we could find funding.
Yeah, let's try and do that, because this is going to be a big deal.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
And
just-
typically they hand out these planning study grants pretty easily. I'm pretty confident we'll be able to come up with money to look
Yeah.
at what that is, and then we got a number to work with and start, you know, lobbying the province for
Yeah.
ways they can fund it for us.
Okay, so it won't affect our feasibility study budget for 23?
Not this year, no.
Okay, good. Thank you for letting me know.
Yeah.
Another problem to worry about.
Yeah, yeah. All right, well, there you go.
Good, thank you.
You're free. Thanks for your
Good.
participation and input there, so,
You're welcome.
Chat
Thanks
soon.
for letting me
okay,
feed the horses before I left town.
yeah. Okay, bye now.
Good. Bye.